Hello. Did my audio cut out?
Nope, I hear you.
I can't hear you. Hold on one second. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them where they can find you. You've been putting out a bunch of videos, so you can do that and I'll
Yeah.
figure this out.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eros. You can find me on YouTube at Eros and Twitter X at Eros to Ethos. I just recently put out a video about Neptune and Saturn moving through Pisces for all of the rising signs, but I gave a pretty in-depth explanation on Saturn and Neptune as well, so definitely check that out if you're interested. It's it's been a pretty significant transit, and I also forecasted what the Neptune Saturn conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees, um, how that might affect each rising sign as well, and talked about the Neptune Saturn cycles in history. So that was pretty interesting. And then I think last week, um, I was on the Occult Rejects and we covered the 12 labors of Hercules. Though I feel like we didn't talk too much about Hercules, honestly. We talked a lot about the north and south node and eclipses and order versus chaos and Typhon and all of that fun stuff. So definitely
It was
check
kind of
that
a
out as
meta
well.
discussion. We were kind of going around the issue and talking about all the other stuff that they're associated with. So I think it's an advanced course. If you want an advanced course in Herculean stuff, watch that episode. We don't do beginner stuff here. So
Yeah, I mean, everybody's already talked about the 12 labors themselves, but I think we will probably at some point dig into the labors because we actually didn't talk about the labors specifically at all. But yeah,
well, we got a lot of the monster stuff out of the way, which I think is very important because people don't know the lineage of all of these different monsters come back to the same source, Echnida and Typhon, and
hmm
it just sort of gets glossed over in the story that there's a monster over there. Where did they come from? What's going on with that? And also, the Hound of Hell is also a monster from Echnida and Typhon as well. So
yeah,
interesting
and it
fact.
really honestly tied into the Neptune Saturn stuff too because Neptune is the subconscious and um that's kind of where our Typhon monsters come out. And honestly, I think the whole allegory of Hercules is kind of like he's going backwards and almost it can be like an analogy for battling your own subconscious.
I would agree. I think there's a big linkage between these labors and the whole idea of the narrative arc coming around back to home base. And it's funny, I saw a movie while I was with my parents, Predators, right? So this is all from the perspective of the predator, and they had the most perfect narrative arc for it. So as he's going through the labors, he comes back and then uses those labors as a weapon later on. So it was like, everything had a reference back to itself. His return home was literally a return to his planet. So you have a lot of that sort of happening right now. It's funny when you get these perfect narrative arcs, it shows to me that they're planning on doing something pretty immediate. We had this with Neo in the Matrix, right? These perfect narrative arcs coming into play in 1999, perfect heroes' journeys over and over again. And then what happens? 2001 is sort of like the big crash, and we don't see that kind of cinema again. So if they're starting with these perfect narrative arcs and perfect heroes' journeys again, there's something to keep your eye out for because I think things are going to change really quickly if that's the case.
Wait, so Predator is the hero?
Yes, yes, he
Okay.
plays the hero, and yeah. So it was one of these anti-human themed movies, but you have to kind of be paying attention. So the Predator's not killing a bunch of humans in this movie. He's killing a bunch of the androids from the movie Alien. You know, the guys that got split open with all the milk shooting out from them. So it's him versus the corporation that runs all of those androids. And so there really wasn't a single human in it. So they're just sort of like, well, here are your replacements. The replacements are going to be fighting the aliens and not you because you'll just be on Earth trying to get a hold of whatever they're bringing back. So pretty
That's
typical.
really weird.
So let's get started. Let's do some Paracelsus von Hohenheim.
Okay, sure. So we are uh
I
on
believe chapter 4.
chapter 4, yeah. So this is the book concerning the tincture of the philosophers by Paracelsus. We've been working through this for the past 4 episodes. Um, and we are on chapter 4. So this is titled Concerning the Process for the Tincture of the Philosophers as it is shortened by Paracelsus. The ancient Spagyrus would not have required such lengthened labor and such wearisome repetition if they had learned and practiced their work in my school. They would have obtained their wish just as well with far less expense and labor. But at this time, when Theophrastus Paracelsus Bombast has arrived as the monarch of Arcana, the opportunity is at hand for finding out those things which were occult to all Spagyrus before me. Wherefore I say, take only the rose-colored blood from the lion and the gluten from the eagle. When you have mixed these, I think that we have we read this chapter. Sorry, guys.
Well, there was something interesting in there. He was saying the gluten from the eagle.
Yep, I remember that from last time.
He's definitely talking about the process of creating alcohol with the sugars.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't understand the eagle, but
Well, there's a lot of different eagle symbolism in astrology. Is it a Riga? No, that's the charioteer. I thought there was an eagle specifically in the northern sky. I'm blanking on what it's called though. And in a lot of ways, if you've got plants that then correspond with the eagle, you could just follow right along and use that as sort of like a physical indication of where they want you to go with it. So you could probably use a bunch of plants that, go along with Leo for the blood of the lion.
yeah, true. Okay, so turns out we're on chapter 5. So this is concerning the conclusion of the process of the ancients made by Paracelsus. Lastly, the ancient Spagyrus, having placed Lily in a pelican and dried it, fixed it by means of a regulated increase of the fire, continued so long until from blackness, by permutation into all the colors, it became red as blood, and therewith assumed the condition of a salamander. Rightly indeed did they proceed with such labor, and in the same way it is right and becoming that everyone should proceed who seeks this pearl. It will be very difficult for me to make this clearer to you unless you shall have learnt in the school of the alchemists to observe the degrees of the fire and also to change your vessels. For then at length you will see that soon after your lilies shall have become heated in the philosophic egg, it becomes with wonderful appearances blacker than the crow, afterwards in succession of time whiter than the swan, and at last passing through a yellow color, it turns out more red than any blood. Seek, seek, says the first Spagyrist, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. It would be impious and indecorous to put food in the mouth of a perfidious bird. Let her rather fly to it, even as I, with others before me, have been compelled to do, but follow true art, for this will lead you to its perfect knowledge. It is not possible that anything should here be set down more fully or more clearly than I have before spoken. Let your Pharisaical schools teach you what they will from their unstable and slippery foundation, which reaches not its end or its aim. When at length you shall have been taught as accurately as possible that alchemist art, nothing in the nature of things shall then at length be so difficult which cannot be made manifest to you by the aid of this art. Nature indeed herself does not bring forth anything into the light which is advanced to its highest perfection, as can be seen in this place from the unity or the union of our duality. But a man ought by spagyric preparations to lead it thither where it was ordained by nature. Let this have been sufficiently said by me concerning the process of the ancients and my correction of the tincture of the philosophers, so far as relates to its preparation. Moreover, since now we have that treasure of the Egyptians in our hands, it remains that we turn it to our use, and this is offered to us by the spagyric magistry in two ways. According to the former mode, it can be applied for the renewing of the body. According to the latter, it is to be used for the transmutation of metals. Since then I, Theophrastus Paracelsus, have tried each of them in different ways. I am willing to put them forward and to describe them according to the signs indeed of the work, and as in experience and proof they appeared to me better and more perfectly. So, I mean, this is just kind of a very poetic way to and symbolic, esoteric way to talk about the process. I was kind of surprised. It's like he's insinuating Citrinus would be the last. I mean, I don't.
Well, I don't know if he's actually. Well, in this case, he definitely is saying that last is the yellow color, which is kind of different from a lot of other ones, but could have to do with the process specific to the plants he's using, right? Or he messed it up, which is a possibility as well. But yeah, he's saying it goes from yellow to red, which is definitely not normal.
Yeah.
If I can be honest, yeah. Normally it goes from red to black, and then from black to yellow, and then yellow to white. I thought
Mhm.
it's interesting because he says the former method is for metals, and the previous method is for plants.
Mm.
I'd have to break that apart. I could probably do that by next week, but I'll check that out again. But he could be saying something that we're not picking up on because he's, again, like this whole thing is a screed. He keeps saying all of the academics are screwing him over and everything else. So I don't know if that translates into what he's writing about.
Yeah, and philosophic egg is a weird thing to say.
Well, a lot of this stuff goes back to the Orphic egg and the Orphic hymn about the origin of life and everything else. And if he's talking about the Orphic egg being this important part of the, completed process, sort of like that's the philosopher's stone, I'm going to have to go back and read the Emerald Tablet because I think that's important as well. Because I think this plays into the Philosopher's Stone or the Orphic Egg just as readily. So this is from the Vulgate. It says, "True it is without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is above is like that to which is below, and that which is below is like that to which is above, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. And as all things were by contemplation of one, again, back to the Orphic egg, so all things arose from this one thing by a single act of adaptation. So that single act of adaptation for the Orphic egg would be the transformation into this, Faunus protogonos. The father thereof is the sun, again, that light. The mother, the moon or reflection. The wind has carried it in its womb. The earth is the nurse thereof. So these are, again, these different processes being described in different ways other than just the colors. It is the father of all works of wonder throughout the whole world. The power thereof is perfect. If it be cast onto the earth, it will separate the element of earth from that of fire, the subtle from the gross. With great sagacity it doth ascend gently from earth to heaven. Again it doth descend to the earth, and untieth itself the force from things superior and inferior. Thus thou wilt possess the glory of the brightness of the whole world, and all obscurity will fly far from thee. This thing is the strong fortitude of all strength, for it overcometh every subtle thing, and doth penetrate every solid substance. Thus was the waited. Hence there will be marvelous adaptations achieved, of which the manner is this. For this reason I am called Hermes Trismegistus, because I hold the three parts of the wisdom of the whole world. That which I had to say about the operation of soul is completed. What do you think of that? Was that a interesting, translation?
I think so. The work of soul, I mean, it seems like commentary on like consciousness.
Big time. I think that's the real connecting beam, is that all of the stuff in the Emerald Tablet are just a more poetic way of trying to show what the alchemists are trying to show in their great work, is that these things have a type of energy that can penetrate through every solid thing, right, and overcome every subtle thing. And it's those energies that give us life and produce all forms of emanation on the planet from that one thing through the first act of adaptation. So it's encoding a lot of this Neoplatonic belief systems in there as well, and it's just a combination of poetry and philosophy that says so much more every time you read it. It's deceptively simple.
Well, and it's just interesting because it's another like link between like the soul, solar and consciousness. And it's like, um, I don't know, my mind goes like, how is this related to fire? Fire is kind of like, uh, probably a bigger thing than is understood.
Well, why can't it be zodiacal, right? So they're talking about these different signs. Those are directly related to these fire signs, air signs, water signs, and they're talking about the sun and the moon in the same sentence. So why couldn't it be zodiac? Why couldn't all these different processes be related to different times of the year?
Yeah, like a cyclical thing, but I don't know. I still think science tends to mirror the spiritual stuff, and so my mind is like, plasma, electricity, like I don't know, but
Right.
yeah.
I think that's part of it too. You got the frequency, right? You got the different vibrations and the different amplitudes of electricity that are all harmonizing into a flow, and that flow can actually do work. A lot of this stuff has to do with the subtle energy passing through the dense energy, because the electrons would be more subtle than the wires that they're shoved through. So in a lot of ways you can see how it's multidisciplinary.
Right, and if I guess in that way, plasma, like fire, would be the kind of coagulant.
Well, I think plasma would be more of a chaotic fire because fire is pretty basic, but plasma can actually start to generate a lot of creative structures. Like it's literally
Mhm.
forming structures within the plasma as you're lighting it up. So there is
It's got
evidence to show,
electricity in it.
right? There is some evidence to show that plasma is conscious. A lot like, there's a lot to show that water is conscious. I think
Yeah.
having the fourth phase of water, which talks about sort of like this plasma state within the water, it lets on a lot of information about the alchemical nature to all of this stuff that we're just really not getting because our science has never really been involved too much in the subtle, how things participate outside of laboratory conditions. But
Super interesting.
speaking of
Water and fire, the sun and the moon.
exactly, speaking of outside of laboratory conditions, I think a good example of that would be Victor Schauberger, right? So I want to pick up a little bit more about water from him. It says, our primeval mother is an organism that no science in the world can rationalize. Everything on her that crawls and flies is dependent upon her, and all must hopelessly perish if that earth dies that feeds us. Although the chlorination of drinking and household water supplies ostensibly removes the threat of waterborne disease, you love this, he hated any kind of chlorination of water. He'll tell you why here. It does so, however, to the detriment of the consumer. In its function of water, water sterilizer or disinfectant, chlorine eradicates all types of bacteria, beneficial and harmful alike. More importantly, however, it also disinfects the blood, about 80% water, or sap, ditto. In doing so, kills off or seriously weakens many of the immunity enhancing microorganisms residing in the body of those constantly forced to consume it. Thus, eventually, it impairs their immune system to such a degree that they are no longer able to eject viruses, germs, and cancer cells, to which the respective host body ultimately falls victim. And he gets into about AIDS thereafter. But I thought that was interesting. So, chlorination of water basically kills it and kills you for drinking it. And so, when people bring up how we need to be more nature focused, I think it starts with our own bodies. It's like, what is our nature? How do we enhance our nature? Because by enhancing our own nature, the outside world is like medicine to us, right? So being out in that environment is both an aid and a benefit to us and the environment as well. So I think a lot
Mhm.
of the ultra processed everything that we consume all the time is killing us. And I think Schauberger talking about chlorine is a good example of that.
Yeah, I don't drink chlorine.
You
I have a
do.
reverse
All of our water.
osmosis.
Oh, you do? Nice.
I do, yeah. It's great. But also, yeah, like all of that stuff, anything that, I don't know, they just mess with the natural harmony too much, you know what I mean? For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
think
there's like, even, do you know how many like microbials and stuff in the dirt? There's like billions, and we don't even know anything about most of them. It's kind of crazy.
right, right. And as soon as one of them goes away, the whole field dies, and we're like, what do we do? Pour more fertilizer on it. It's like, no, guys, that's how you got in this situation to begin with. So it's one of
Yeah.
these things we can never get off the train. We gotta stop making the poor decisions over and over again.
Well,
Shortcut thinking
nature finds a way, right? I mean,
to our detriment.
yeah, but even like yeah, antibiotics and stuff like, yeah, that's
Yep.
been a disaster.
On so many different levels. But we got a little temporary fix from it. and that's all that really matters. It's just that temporary fix. We just need a better one next time.
Well, yeah. Or, could just look into bacteriophage therapy. If you're ever dying from infection, definitely try to seek that out.
Right. And it's funny because there's so many other alternatives. Like for instance, what was it? Peppermint oil. They found that peppermint oil can actually be used on the inside of people's bodies without causing any more infection and killing the bad bacteria inside there. I
Oh,
could be wrong on that. So definitely do your own research.
I
But
haven't heard of that, but
right.
I've definitely cleared like infections and stuff by just using like vitamin C and garlic and um, probiotics.
Also good. Now, were you using the vitamin C that comes from the Walmart all packaged in there?
Like the NRC, it's
Oh, that's probably good.
it's I don't know. It's got calcium in it, and I think it's like, I forget. But it's supposed to be like a better one.
The vitamin C you get from the tablets is actually cellulose. So it's the same stuff as cardboard. They're just selling you cardboard and calling it vitamin C.
Hmm.
Cellulose, which is
Oh.
really sad. I mean, the quality of the stuff matters, which is why it's taken me a while to get all the right stuff for this because I keep shopping around and I'm like, maybe I'll get it and then I'll choose something else and then I'll come back to it later. But we will have more experiments coming, I promise. It's just going to take a while to find the right stuff. But I think that's important because, you guys, if you want, you can buy it from me. We'll see when we're done with this, but you'll get to see the whole process of how it's made, which I think is interesting as well. Because we're going to be talking about doing salves, right? As well as spagyrics, which would probably be more expensive because there's a lot more to it than that. But there's lots of stuff we can make. And hopefully you guys stick with us because we're going to be making more of that stuff in the future. So definitely. Tell them where they can find you, and we'll go ahead and get out of there. It's about 30 minutes.
Alrighty. You can find me on YouTube at Eros Up, and you can find me on Twitter at Eros to Ethos, and I'm on the Occult Rejects sometimes, so you can find me over there too.
Awesome, awesome. And if you have any occult / paranormal stories that you want to send me, it's the Headless Giant Podcast at gmail.com. Put story in the subject line, and we will read those on Thursdays. So definitely check that out. Headless's Magical Mailbag.
Yeah, those are so fun.
Well, we're gonna have to get you on. Do you want to be on Thursday? What are you doing?
I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't have anything planned.
All right. Well, if you guys want to see Eros on Headless's Magical Mailbag, put a 1 in the chat. See those ones. Come on, people. Anyways, they're coming. But we will see you guys again next time. And this has been another Alchemy Monday. Talk to you later.